Alrighty, welcome everybody back to another video here on the channel. If you don't know who I am by now, my name is David. I also go by Miller Football, and today we're going to be talking about the current state of the Chicago Bears following the firings that happened today, the press conference that went down. We're going to take a look at the firings. I'm going to tell you what I think about it. We're going to take a look at some of the quotes from the press conference, talk about what I think that means for the future of the team, and where I think the team is headed. I did something similar like this with the Denver Broncos and the whole Sean Payton situation a week ago. Now we're going to be talking about my favorite team, something a bit more in my wheelhouse. So let's go ahead and jump into this. You guys all know at this point the Chicago Bears have fired multiple coaches, including offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, quarterbacks coach Andrew Janico, running backs coach Omar Young, wide receivers coach Tyke Tolbert, and assistant tight ends coach Tim Zetz. Now, this is a net positive for the Chicago Bears. Luke Getsy was absolutely terrible as the Bears' offensive coordinator. Did he have some good ideas? Sure. Was he all bad? No. He had his bright spots. He was able to adjust the offense at times and play to Fields' strengths at times, but for the most part, he was terrible. Absolutely downright no good terrible. Many Bears fans have been begging for this. I thought this would happen mid-season. You know, the Bears have never fired a coach mid-season in their 100-plus-year history, and I was fully convinced that Getsy was going to be gone multiple times throughout the season on Monday morning, and it never happened. Here we are, the Wednesday after the season ended, and they finally get rid of him. Good riddance, right? At the end of the day, the Bears needed to do this no matter what, no matter who the quarterback is next year, no matter who the head coach is next year. Getsy would have had to pull off an absolute miracle in the last game of the season or been the recipient of some divine intervention to keep his job in Chicago, and that thankfully did not happen, so he's out. Andrew Janico also makes a ton of sense. Him and Getsy were two peas in a pod in Chicago. Am I saying they're entirely to blame for Fields' shortcomings? No. It's not entirely their fault. Justin Fields is certainly to blame for quite a bit of it. There's certain areas where he just has not developed. Now, they're not doing him any favors in that regard. Omar Young, he was the assistant running backs coach and then ended up taking over when the Bears had to let their original running backs coach go for some inappropriate behavior. I don't know if we ever found out what it was specifically, but that also makes sense. You have a guy who was an assistant taking over in the run game, even though it was great. I would argue the running backs this year were a bit disappointing. D'Onta Foreman was really good until the Bears stopped playing him, which was a Getsy thing. Khalil Herbert, when he came back from injury, wasn't 100%. I don't know if I'm going to fully blame that on him. I think a lot of that is probably just Herbert's health not being all there. And then Roschon Johnson didn't quite develop the way that a lot of people expected him to. Roschon's still fine. I still think he's going to develop well, but this year he's a little bit behind schedule, I think is the best way to put it. So I understand that move as well. Tyke Tolbert, I always forget how to say his name, but Coach Tolbert, he was also the passing game coordinator. Makes a ton of sense to let him go with how disappointing the Bears passing game was. And considering he was the wide receivers coach, and you look at every wide receiver not named DJ Moore on the Bears roster, and they were incredibly disappointing, it makes sense. I absolutely get that as well. And then Tim Zetz, the assistant tight ends coach, I don't know why you'd fire the assistant and not the standard position coach. I don't know what the difference is there. He's gone as well, which is something that means the only coaches the Bears retained at the positional level were offensive line coach Chris Morgan, which makes a lot of sense. He's done some very good work with some of the young pieces like Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright and Tevin Jenkins. Has there been some disappointment on the offensive line? Sure, but I don't think that's necessarily his fault. I think that's more of a personnel issue with Cody Whitehair and Lucas Patrick being total liabilities and Nate Davis having a very up and down year. So I like what Chris Morgan has done. And then the main tight ends coach, whose name I cannot remember off the top of my head, he's done wonderful work with Cole Kmet in developing him. He's helped turn Kmet into a true top 10 tight end. So I absolutely understand wanting to retain the two of them. And then the other big name that was retained, obviously, is head coach Matt Eberflus. Now, this has been met with a lot of negative reception, and I get it. You know, Eberflus is certainly one of the coaches of all time. I think that's the best way to put it. He is a guy who has coached in the NFL. At one point this year, he had the worst win percentage of any Bears coach ever. I don't think that still stands. I think his late season surge pulled him out of that. But still, you tanked last year, well, quote unquote tanked. Tanking isn't really real in the NFL, but it was a season where you were comfortable losing, is how we'll put it, right? It was a growth year, it was a development year, and the Bears were disappointing, but there were a lot of good signs with Eberflus last year, 2022. With discipline and people buying into the hits principle, and the culture in the locker room really, really looked good, right? I was a big Eberflus fan during the offseason. I was excited to see what he would do this year. This year started off very disappointing. Obviously, you had the whole Alan Williams fiasco, and the defense was incredibly disappointing early on. There was a clear lack of discipline with different penalties and, just guys not exactly being in the right headspace. As the season went on, however, I feel like he really improved. The big issue I worry about the collapses that we saw. There were some really conservative calls in that situation. I'm hoping the reason for that, very, very cautiously optimistic the reason for that, was more of a lack of faith in Getsy and Fields, and an abundance of faith in his defense, rather than Eberflus being the type of coach that plays to not lose rather than plays to win. Because, if you're a coach playing not to lose, you're going to lose a lot of ball games. If you get really conservative like that, it's not going to, be very good for you. However, we've seen a lot of Bears players go to bat for Eberflus as of late. TJ Edwards went on a podcast and was raving about how much he loved Eberflus and how great he is as a coach. We've had a couple different players do that. Edwards was the one that comes to mind. I should have pulled up a clip, but I did not. Hopefully I'll be able to put one in post. But, we've had some guys really go to bat for Eberflus. We've seen a lot of guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, start to buy into what he's saying. The hits principle in the second half of the year has really taken full effect. I know I made a video very early on in the year kind of ragging on Eberflus and the hits principle. And while I don't think it's like a flaw or a flawless principle and a flawless mindset and a flawless philosophy, it's certainly better than it once was. It's certainly trending in the right direction. We've seen a lot of work with the Bears attacking the football. That's one of the biggest things. The hustle, the intensity, the football, it's hustle, intensity, the ball, and playing smart. Those are the four elements of the hits principle. There was a lot of hustle in the back half of the year. The defense was very intense. The defense was great at attacking the ball. We forced, I think, the second most interceptions in the league in the back half of the year. And there were a lot of really smart plays by guys like TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds and Montez Sweat and Tyreek Stevenson and Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon and so on and so forth, right? The defense looked awesome in the back half of the year. So I fully understand why the Bears would want to keep him around. If the team's buying into it, the defense continues to look this good, then I get it. Now, I will say I'm a little concerned because the more conservative approach that Eberflus had to defense in the first half of the year, that came back in the last week of the season. Again, more cautious optimism. I'm hoping that's just because Jalen Johnson was not there and not having your future all-pro corner that is the best player on your defense against a division rival and a quarterback that can really sling it. That's definitely frightening, and you probably don't want to play as aggressive with two rookies starting on the boundary. So I'm hoping that's the reasoning there. Time will tell. Obviously, we won't know if that's really the case until we get into next season and we see how the defenses ran, but the sky's the limit for the defense. You've got a ton of talent. You have a ton of awesome players. Obviously, they've preached the Tez effect for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you're going to be able to, this offseason, get another guy opposite Montez Sweat. The Bears really didn't have a consistent pass rusher opposite Sweat. DeMarcus Walker showed some really nice flashes. I think he's more of a rotational lineman that can play a hybrid of defensive end and 3-tech and a 4-3. So you're going to want another guy, potentially take one in the top 10. I'm not sure how deep the edge class is this year. I haven't done my scouting yet, so I'm not sure where I stand with guys outside of the top two quarterbacks. There's a big free agent market. Guys like Danielle Hunter, Josh Allen, they're slated to hit the market. Bryce Huff from the Jets, who have one of the best pass rush win rates the past decade. Those three guys, if any of them hit the open market, I would love the Bears to call them up. Obviously, the priority is Jalen Johnson right now, which we'll talk about in a little bit here when we talk about the future of the Bears. But, there's opportunities to add talent there. The cornerback room looks incredible. Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson are proving to be an incredible 1-2 punch. Kyler Gordon was one of the 5 best nickel corners in football. Terrell Smith was a really nice surprise. At safety, Eddie Jackson's on his way out. You're going to have to find a new free safety there, which, you could go free agency, you could go the draft. There's a myriad of ways to get talent there. You've got Jaquan Brisker, who is on the rise right now. The Bears have a good young roster with a lot of talent. You need some pieces. You need to add some more receivers. You need a little bit of help on the line. And you need a couple pieces on defense. But as a whole, the Bears have an attractive young roster. And more importantly, they have the first overall pick, right? So I've seen a lot of people kind of panicking about, an offensive coordinator wanting to walk into the situation. You're coming in with a coach who has a losing career record. You're walking into an organization that historically is not the best. And you're going to be forced to retain an offensive line coach and a tight end coach. Those are all legitimate critiques, but I think the talent on the defensive side of the ball, first of all, knowing that if you're an offensive coordinator, you're going to have an awesome defense that can bail you out, right? I think that's huge. You're walking into a team that has one of the best run games in football. That's also huge. You have the pieces to run the ball and set yourself up with, a legitimate run game that can take pressure off of a quarterback. That's also great. You have a wide receiver who proved to be a legit number one. Has proved to be a legit number one in the past, but just had a career year. 1,300 receiving yards is nothing to scoff at. You have Cole Kmet, who, as I said, has cemented himself as a legit top 10 tight end. You have legit cornerstones on the offensive line in Tevin Jenkins and Darnell Wright, and I would say Braxton Jones is slowly approaching that. He's not there yet, but I do think Braxton Jones is solid. So you walk into this room as an offensive coordinator, you think, okay, the defense is going to help bail me out. We've got a good run game. We've got some pass catchers. We're going to add a couple more. The Bears have the draft capital to add a couple more. And you have the number 1 overall pick. You get to walk in there with either Justin Fields, who has shown a myriad of flashes, and you're kind of looking at like, okay, can I be the one to fix him? Now, I know a year 4 breakout is a lot to ask for. I would say he's the least attractive option. But if Justin Fields is the least attractive option, I'd say you're doing something right. Your other 2 options, Caleb Williams, who has the potential to be one of the best quarterbacks we've seen come into the NFL in the past decade. That's awesome. You have Drake May, who has that same exact potential. Drake May and Caleb Williams, in my eyes, are QB1A and QB1B. There's not a big gap between the 2 of them. Kind of comes down to preference, if you ask me. I'm going to have to make videos once we get more into talking about the draft, about my opinions on those 2, but you can't go wrong either way. And honestly, I think the pick will come down to who interviews better and who fits what the offensive coordinator wants better. You get a choice. You get to say, okay, I want either Justin Herbert or I want someone who played a little more hero ball in college, but can deliver throws from a clean pocket when he wants to. I just have to reel him in a little bit. Sounds very similar to a quarterback who wears the number 15 in Kansas City. Not saying they're going to be the same player. I don't really like the comparisons. I'm just saying it's a similar idea, similar concept, right? So this job is going to be extremely attractive. On the defensive side of the ball, same deal. You're going to get to come in, learn under Matt Eberflus, who's a respected defensive mind in the NFL, and you're going to get to come in and work with a myriad of talent on the defensive side of the ball. Arguably the best linebacker core in football. One of, if not the best secondary in football. I wouldn't say the best. I think Cleveland probably has a better all-around secondary. So one of the best secondaries in football. A legit top 15 pass rusher. Young, up-and-coming defensive lineman in Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens. And you have money to spend on that side of the ball to potentially reel in a big fish like Josh Allen or Danielle Hunter or who have you, right? People are upset about this and saying that they're worried about how attractive this job is going to be. I think both coordinator jobs in Chicago are very, very attractive. And I'm not alone in thinking that. Because according to Matt Eberflus, this is the wrong tweet. According to Matt Eberflus, their phone has been blowing up with people asking about the open jobs. And obviously they're feeling a sense of urgency to get the right coach in the right position and do it in a timely manner. Very understandable. But for them to come out and say that their phones are blowing up at this very moment, I think proves what I'm saying. Like, I think the Bears are in a great spot. Now, this tweet right here, just to talk about it, they asked Eberflus why they're changing the offensive staff. He says that we felt that when we looked at the growth and the development and improvement, it wasn't where it needed to be. That's a very light way of putting what went down in Chicago. But yeah, I mean, this is a fair assessment. I think I would have been a little bit more harsh. Maybe throwing Luke Getsy's name in there if I was in that situation. But I'm not a professional. Matt Eberflus is. So, handled it well. The big question, though, again, talking about the quarterback situation, what do the Bears do with the number 1 overall pick? This is going to be a topic that's going to be debated all offseason until one of two moves is made. Until Ryan Poles trades the number 1 overall pick, or until Justin Fields is traded. Until one of those two things happens, this will be debated all offseason. I'm going to tell you right now, as much as I love Justin Fields, I do. I have his jersey. I have a Justin Fields Funko Pop. I have defended him for the past 3 years of his career. As much as I love Justin Fields, I'm very much on the draft Caleb Ermey train. Because look, at the end of the day, a year 4 breakout for a quarterback has very little historical precedence. Not saying it's impossible, just not exactly likely. And when you're in a position where you have a roster that can win football games right now, and all you need is a quarterback, why not go out and get a guy that will be just as good as Justin is right now in the first year of their career? Reset the quarterback clock, where you don't have to pay him in 2 years, you have to pay him in 4 or 5 years. And build a sick roster around that quarterback. I understand that there's people out there who want to do the same thing, build a sick roster around Justin Fields with even more draft capital, go get Marvin Harrison, go draft a top tackle or Brock Bowers. I get all that. I absolutely do. And in a perfect world, that is what the Chicago Bears will be doing right now. However, I don't believe I have the quote, but as Ryan Poles said in his press conference, the Bears have a unique opportunity. If the Bears had the 3rd pick this year, this wouldn't be a conversation. This wouldn't be Fields versus Daniels. I'm sure there would still be people arguing that. But I don't think it would be Fields versus Daniels. I think it would be, okay, you take Marv at 3, and then at 9 or 10 or wherever you're picking, you take a defensive lineman, or you hope one of the tackles falls, or you take Brock Bowers. Whatever it might be. But because the Bears are at number 1, with 2 historic quarterback prospects staring them in the face with the opportunity to reset the quarterback clock and not have to pay their quarterback within the next 2 years, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, having a quarterback on a rookie deal is a cheat code in the NFL. And I'm not saying this is the only thing. Like, I know drafting a quarterback is inherently like buying a lottery ticket or taking some sort of other gamble. I think sticking with Fields is just as much of a gamble at this point. What has he shown you as a passer to prove that he's 100% the guy? His footwork's still slow. He's still struggling to see the field. He's not seeing anything pre-snap. I love Justin Fields, and I think there's still a world where he becomes a good NFL quarterback. But when you're in this position to take one of Caleb or Drake May, I think you pull the trigger and you don't think twice about it. Now, as Poles mentions here, they're going to exhaust all their options, and he's going to take this all the way to April, right? That's the whole thing. And he even said that with Justin Fields' 5th-year option, they're considering it. They're talking about it. They've got until May 3rd. They don't know exactly what they're going to do. Now, unfortunately, this video won't load. I don't necessarily think what Eberflus and Poles said in the press conference gives us a whole lot about, what they think about Fields going forward. Like, this tweet seems to think it's pretty definitive. Of course, it's coming from Justin Fields' fan club. But he says, Matt Eberflus said that we love where Justin is right now, and he will continue to grow as we grow this football team. He says Justin Fields will be the quarterback 1 for the Bears in 2024. I don't think that's inherently definitive. I think this language is just saying the bare minimum about a quarterback. Like, people forget. Eberflus and Poles aren't going to come out during the first press conference of the offseason and say, yeah, I don't like Fields anymore. We don't want him. Somebody come get him. They're not going to do that. They're going to bullshit. They're going to say, hey, listen, we like where Justin is right now. We think he's in a great spot. We think he can be a legit quarterback on another football team. Because they say that, other GMs are like, I want a legit quarterback on my football team. And that's how you get a trade done. You come out and say, yeah, we don't want this guy anymore. Other GMs look at that as like, oh, he's not even good enough for the Bears? Why would we want him? Why would I want to touch him? I'll take him, but I'm not giving you more than like a 5th-round pick. You're not taking a 5th-round pick for Justin Fields. You want more than that. Sam Darnold went for a second and change. Surely you can get a second and change for Justin Fields, if not more. I'm not saying a 1st-round pick, but you should be able to get more. So, again, very pro trade Justin Fields as much as it hurts my heart. I feel like it's what we need to do. I feel like it's the correct direction here. Now, moving on to some other things that were stated in this press conference. Poles got asked about Jaylon Johnson, who, as we all know, as of right now, is an unrestricted free agent. Jaylon Johnson has been pretty adamant in saying he wants to stick around in Chicago. He thinks he's going to stick around in Chicago. Poles echoed that today, saying Jaylon is not going to go anywhere, excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. The Bears have top 5 cap space in the league right now headed into the offseason. Jaylon Johnson just had the best season out of any corner in the league. You pay him. If he wants to stick around, you pay him. I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about that. I'm hoping him being this direct with it is a sign that they're close on an extension. I don't know if it's necessarily like we'll find out within the next week that Jaylon Johnson's a Bear long term, but I'm hoping they're close on an extension. I'm hoping that's what this language means. This, to me, is the biggest deal this offseason. Like, yeah, quarterback matters a lot, don't get me wrong, but at this very moment, I'm more worried about Jaylon Johnson. Now, Brad Biggs here, one of the best Bears journalists there is, makes a great point, and I think this really echoes what I've been trying to say, right? The Bears have been stuck in this cycle for the past 15 years or whatever, right? Draft a quarterback, fire a coach's sophomore year, you hire a new coach, and then you throw in a new GM every once in a while, rinse and repeat, right? We saw it with, Trubisky starting out with John Fox and then ending up with Matt Nagy. And then Matt Nagy got Justin Fields and he got fired and Matt Eberflus came in. And you had the switch of, Ryan Pace over to Ryan Poles. And now you're approaching Caleb Williams or Drake May, getting the same thing with Eberflus and Ryan Poles. The difference is, though, in this last line before him bringing up his column, is the big thing here. How do the Bears escape this never-ending cycle? You pick the right quarterback. That's what the Chicago Bears need to do. They've failed to do so. Mitch Trubisky was not the right quarterback. Mitch Trubisky was never going to work in Chicago. It didn't matter who his head coach was. He's just, again, as much as I love Mitch Trubisky, he was not an NFL quarterback. Justin Fields, God love him, he may have been the right quarterback, but it wasn't at the right time, right? Right person, wrong time. That's a very real thing. I think that was the case with Justin Fields. Bringing in Caleb or May, either or. I know everyone wants to be real definitive and say Caleb or May. That's the conversation. Bringing in one of them is going to be huge for this organization. This is going to be the best situation a rookie quarterback has walked into in the last, I don't know how many years, maybe ever. We have this legit defense. We have a general manager who I trust very much. You have 2 legit weapons on offense with ammunition to add more. You have building blocks on the offensive line. You have a great run game to rely on. And you're most likely going to have a really good offensive coordinator. Bears are in a great spot. I think the biggest thing here, the reason why I'm not upset about what's happening right now, is that I trust Ryan Poles a hell of a lot. I think Ryan Poles is an awesome, awesome general manager. He's done so much good for the Chicago Bears. Like, yeah, he missed on Claypool pretty bad. That happens. GMs make bad moves all the time, right? That one was pretty rough. He had his eyes on a wide receiver. He wanted to help out Justin Fields midseason. Didn't work out because Claypool's heart just isn't in the game of football. That's a miss. Velus Jones, third round, not a great pick. Not a good pick. Not even a competent pick. It was a bad pick. But considering Justin Fields was in his ear saying, hey, coach, I like this wide receiver. I would like to throw to him next year. Poles had faith in his quarterback and was like, okay, he's a speedster. He was great after the catch. We need somebody after the catch. They took a swing. Velus Jones just hasn't turned into something yet. Even then, I still think there's hope for Velus Jones as a scat back. You look at the positive moves he's made, trading away the number 1 overall pick last year for DJ Moore, or a package that ended up being DJ Moore, Darnell Wright, Tyreek Stevenson, by the way, both incredible rookies, and a first-round pick this year, or the number 1 overall pick this year, more specifically, in a more stacked quarterback class, or at least a more top-heavy quarterback class than we had last year. Caleb and May, either or, would have been QB1 last year. I know people will not like that because CJ Stroud had a great rookie year. CJ Stroud wasn't even the consensus QB1 last year. He ended up in a great situation. Houston looked great. Ryan Poles has done awesome with that. Draft-wise, he took Gervon Dexter, who I despised coming into Chicago. I absolutely hated the pick. Gervon Dexter is one of the best young defensive tackles in football now. He was incredible. Statistically, he was on par with Jalen Carter this year. He's not as good as Jalen Carter, but he was awesome, and he's only getting better. He's still raw. Roschon Johnson in his limited time on the field looked great. Would have liked to see him more this year. Free agent signings, Andrew Billings has proven to be awesome. He was the best player in Chicago's front 7 for the first half of the year. The linebacker signings Poles made have proven to be awesome. TJ Edwards is one of the most underrated players in the league, got him for a steal of a contract. Tremaine Edmonds, statistically, was one of the 3 best cover linebackers in football this year. Had, 4 interceptions and a pick 6. And the coverage stats love Tremaine Edmonds. He was up there with Fred Warner and Roquan Smith in terms of coverage. It's awesome. The Roquan Smith trade. I know a lot of people were pissed at Chicago for getting rid of Roquan Smith. He didn't want to be here. He wanted out. He made that clear. Ryan Poles traded him away. Both sides benefited. Chicago ended up getting 2 linebackers for the same price that they would, or 3 linebackers technically, if you want to talk about Jack Sanborn. Another fantastic find by Poles as an undrafted free agent out of Wisconsin. All 3 of those linebackers together are worth the same amount of money as Roquan Smith. Are they better than Roquan Smith? No. But Ryan Poles saved money and got near identical production this year from TJ Edwards alone as to what Roquan Smith did. Now, that's not to downplay Roquan Smith as a player. He's incredible, and he transformed the defense in Baltimore. But both sides can win. You know, as the great J. Cole once said, they act like 2 legends cannot coexist. Drafted Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker. Jaquan Brisker has gotten better every game he's played. Kyler Gordon's already one of the 5 best nickels in football. I know I've already said that, but it's true. Found Braxton Jones in the 5th round. He's already better than he should have ever been. Ryan Poles has done awesome work with the Chicago Bears. This is going to be what makes or breaks him, though. He has tied his name to Matt Eberflus. If the Bears are going to be a serious team going forward, he needs to get this right. If he gets it wrong, then they're both going to go down with the ship. I don't think he got it wrong, though. Is Eberflus my first choice for head coach? No. I would have liked any number of Shanahan disciples. Big Shanahan guy. Is he my last choice for head coach? No. Is he the worst head coach in the league? No. Does the team still have potential with Matt Eberflus as head coach? Absolutely. They get this offensive coordinator hire right, which is going to be huge. And one of these 2 quarterbacks is what they're supposed to be. The Chicago Bears can still be legit as soon as next year. The future is bright in Chicago. This is the most important offseason for the Chicago Bears in my lifetime, probably. I've been on this earth 20 years. I can't think of a more important offseason for the Bears. This is huge. They spend their money right. They use their draft picks right, which Ryan Poles has shown he knows how to do. They can get Jalen Johnson extended. They can hit this offensive coordinator hire. And one of these 2 quarterbacks turns out to be what they're supposed to be. The Bears are going to be fucking scary. And people forget that. People are upset about the whole Matt Eberflus thing. They're too negative. I hate it. I hate how negative Bears fans are. You tell them it's sunny, they're sad that the crops aren't getting water. You tell them they got a snow day from school, they're mad because they have to take a test online. I don't know. I couldn't think of a good analogy. I'm bad at analogies. The point is, this is the most pessimistic fan base on the planet. I absolutely despise it sometimes. And I wish we could all look at the bright side a little bit more often. And I think there's a lot of good with what happened today. The biggest win is Luke Getsy's gone. The guy that we have complained about day in and day out for the past year plus is gone. Gonzo. Done. Out of Chicago. No more screen passes and a lot more slant passes coming your way next season. That's a win in and of itself. The Bears have an opportunity to draft Caleb Williams or Drake May. That's a win. The Bears have a ton of cap space and Jalen Johnson wants to stick around. That's a win. The Bears have 2 first-round picks. That's a win. We have DJ frickin' Moore. That's a win. Be happy. Be happy about football. Stop being a bunch of pessimists. Stop being a bunch of masochists. Stand up now, face the sun, and enjoy the sport of football. Enjoy this offseason because it's going to be a fucking roller coaster and it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be a roller coaster in the best way possible. It's going to be a hell of a lot of ups. There's probably going to be some downs for those of us who like Justin Fields. But at the end of the day, it's going to lead to one hell of a 2024. But I guess that's all I have for this. I should point out one more thing here. One more important tidbit. Despite the rumors, I will not be taking over as the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. Just thought I should put that out there. There's some people been asking me about that. I've gotten some tweets, some DMs, some texts, some phone calls. I'm not the guy. Unfortunately, as much as I'd love to go in there and run 21 personnel every single play, I just can't do it with the uncertainty at quarterbacks. So I got offered the job, not going to take it, but rooting like hell for whoever does take it. But with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little rant of mine. I apologize if it's just some tweets on the screen, but I wanted to make sure I got this out relatively quickly so it stays topical. You know, journalism and news and whatnot. It's been a busy day. I had to wait till late to record this. Got to record my podcast here in 15 minutes. So here's to hoping I can get this uploaded and edited in 15 minutes. But yeah, again, thank you all for watching. If you haven't already, make sure to leave a like down below. It shows your support, helps out the channel a ton, shows you care, all that good stuff. And also make sure to subscribe. Ton of fun content coming your way throughout the offseason. Not just the Bears. Probably a good bit of the Bears. I'm going to be honest, I'm a Bears fan. But we'll be talking about other players, other teams. Talking about the draft, prospects, mock drafts, collaborations. Bunch of fun stuff you won't want to miss. And make sure to leave a comment down below. Tell me what your thoughts are on the current state of the Chicago Bears. Let me know. Are you optimistic? Are you a pessimist? Somebody pissed your Cheerios this morning? You feeling high like me? You excited? You scared? A little bit of everything? Just let me know in the comments. Let it be a therapy session. We're all here for you. We'll talk it out. Yeah, bro to bro. Or bro to sis. Or bro to non-binary friend. Right? Got to be inclusive. But yeah, all that being said, I hope you all enjoyed for the third time. It's everyone out there watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day, afternoon, morning, evening, night, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you enjoy it because you're all wonderful people and you deserve it.